Yeah, let's take a look at the preview for the round 5 assignment for those of you that have to do the assignment. So question number 1, if we were to play a round 6P, we don't, we move over to competitive rounds now, but how many units would need to be produced to meet demand in the traditional segment? Keep in mind that some companies have more than one product in the traditional segment, so for that you need to, of course, go take a look at the production analysis. So we scroll down to that. And you look over here, right? It's primary segment. So for example, Team Baldwin shows 3 products in the traditional segment. Okay, like Erie has like 3 in the low segment, but it's important just to note that like Team Baldwin has 3, and some other teams might have more than that. I'm not sure. So, okay, I even show you then, or give you hints, big hints about how to do that. So you got to calculate what the demand will be for next year for round 6P if we were to play it. Okay. Then you need to calculate the inventory on hand, and I talked a little bit about that in the round recap. That there's a lot of inventory. Okay, coming into the end of round 5, I mean, just all kinds of inventory, and I don't know. And I said this in the other recap, if teams, you guys are making your projections and whatnot, are taking into account inventory. And so I want you to take a look at that. But I'm also going to caution you, and I'll show you what that is. So calculate the inventory that's on hand, and that's in units. Okay, I'm not worried about the dollars. I'm worried about the units here. Okay. And then what's the difference? Okay, and basically that's it. That's how much as an industry you need to produce. Now, my caution is this, as you're getting into the future rounds, is that, for example, Bold is listed as a traditional, okay, and it's got all kinds of units in inventory, 22.5 million almost, right? And it only sold 6 units, okay. So Bold is it's not really competitive, okay? It's not competitive at all. So even though, I want you to calculate it, but if you were actually making decisions for next round, you'd have to take into consideration that Bold is not competitive and probably would not be competitive next round. Okay, I don't know if they could reposition it and get it to where they could make it competitive. It's possible. Okay, it's possible, but maybe unlikely. So that's my caution, that as you calculate this, you got to remember that it's not perfect. It's we're not necessarily going to sell everything that was in inventory first and then proceed, but it's definitely something we need to take into consideration. 2, what are the marginal variable costs of all the low end products? Erie has 3. So again, I want you to take that into consideration, just the products that are classified as low end on the production analysis. And what do I mean when I ask about the marginal costs? Well, first let's take a look. So we got the production analysis. We got, acres low, and beet is low, and cedar, Dell. But Erie's got 1, 2, 3 low end products, and Ferris has just 1. What's a marginal cost? Well, marginal cost is the cost that it took to produce the very last item. Okay, and why that's a little bit important is that your contribution margin is based on costs of some prior things that might have been produced prior rounds if there was in fact some inventory left over, and the cost for the productions that we had this round. Okay, but the marginal cost gives us an idea of what our contribution margin really is kind of going forward, or based on this price. Or what it might be if we were to change the price and whatnot. And so it's kind of an important factor, okay? And my third question gives you an example of that. I ask, what is the marginal contribution margin? I always like that, right? The marginal contribution margin for product cedar, and I want this in dollars. Oops, can't type. Golly, you can't spell. Dollars and cents. Okay, so I would actually call that the gross profit per item, but we'll call it this because that's kind of what the game refers to it as. So not the percentage. And what I mean there, again, we'll take a look at that, but here's cedar, right? Okay, so here's the price, right? And so your contribution margin on a dollars and cents is just the price minus the variable cost. There, I gave you a huge hint. Price minus the variable cost equals my contribution margin. Oh, gosh darn it, I got to take that back out because I do want that in percentage. I don't want it in dollars and cents. Let's do it this way, dollars and cents and percentage. We'll do both. Okay, so once you calculate that, so you get the dollars and cents, price minus the variable cost, okay, then that result you divide by the price. Go back and divide that by the price, and that gives you your contribution margin as a percent. And we can compare that then to what's listed, right? What I'm going to tell you is that it's not a lot different, but you're going to find that the one you calculate is a little different, should be a little higher than this one. Okay, so the last one that they actually made a little bit more money than what the average one that they sold. Okay, and that's important. Okay. Oops. Last question. What is the total amount of inventory in dollars on hand for all teams versus the total sales for round 5? And ask it because the total sales estimated for round 6P would be very close to those for round 5P. So where do I find that? Well, which financial statement's going to have inventory on it? It's going to be our balance sheet. Okay. And so all I got to do is go up to the balance sheet, and I can do my inventory, right? It's right there. So I can add that up, and I've basically answered the question. Why did I ask that? Again, it's a reference to the fact that there's a lot of inventory, and I don't think that we're taking it into account. Next year's sales will be about similar to last year's because we're not seeing a lot of growth rate. I don't know what's going to happen on prices. If everybody lowered their prices, sales next year would actually be lower than this year, right? If everybody raised their prices, they might be higher, and so. But you can see the growth rates are pretty close to zero for next year in all of the categories, 0.1, point minus something, and so it's about equal, about even for next year, and so that's going to give you an idea then as to how much inventory there is in dollar sense, and how many total dollars. Did I ask for what the total dollars in sales is? I asked because. Oh yeah, versus total sales. So you also got to calculate total sales, and how do you do that? For the last round, there's sales, right, from the income statement, right? So you'd add all those, and that's going to give you what your total sales are, and you kind of compare the two. It's going to show you that, there's a pretty good amount of inventory. You'd like to end each year with 1 unit of inventory in each category, but you're going to find that there's a bunch. So. Okay, take a look. Get that in. It'll be due again before next week, and we'll start the competitive rounds. Remember, everybody goes back to even in the competitive rounds.